In the peaceful village of Bunga, where the wind carried the scent of roasted yam and palm wine, lived a family known as the Akan family. They were good people, simple and hardworking. Mr. and Mrs. Akan had only one child, a boy named OBINA. He was handsome, cheerful, and known all over the village for one thing: his love for food. OBINA could eat more than 3 grown men combined. Every man admired his strength, every woman admired his smile, but once they saw how much he ate, their admiration turned to shock. OBINA's appetite was endless, like a bottomless drum. When OBINA was a child, his parents spoiled him. Each time he cried, his mother gave him food to calm him. If he wanted attention, he would cry again and food would appear. Gradually, eating became the only thing that brought him peace. It wasn't just hunger anymore, it was comfort. He loved food more than anything else in the world. His parents didn't stop him. They thought he would outgrow it. But he never did. Instead, it grew worse as he grew taller. He was known by everyone as OBINA the Food King. By the time OBINA became a young man, his eating habits were legendary. He could eat 3 bowls of pounded yam and a full pot of egusi soup before midday. When people saw him coming, they laughed and said, "Hide your food, OBINA is coming." Some called him Unchecked, the Great Eater. Others teased, "OBINA, do you have the stomach of an elephant?" But OBINA only laughed. "Food is life," he would say proudly. "If I die eating, I die happy." His parents started regretting how they had raised him. One morning, his parents decided enough was enough. They removed all the food from the house. Not even a single grain of rice or gari remained. They wanted to teach OBINA a lesson, to help him overcome his obsession. That morning, OBINA ate his usual portion, 2 calabashes of yam porridge. But before noon, his stomach started growling again. He searched the kitchen, the storeroom, even the backyard. Nothing. His heart began to race. "Mama," he called. "Papa, there's no food." His parents ignored him, pretending not to hear. "You must learn, my son," his father said. "Today you will fast." But fasting was impossible for OBINA. His hunger burned like fire inside him. He walked around restlessly until the sweet smell of jollof rice drifted into the air. It was coming from Mama Kachi's kitchen, their next-door neighbor. OBINA followed the aroma like a bee chasing honey. When he reached the kitchen, he saw a big pot of rice cooking, with chicken roasting beside it. Mama Kachi had stepped out to fetch water. Without thinking twice, OBINA grabbed a plate, scooped the rice, and started eating right there in the open. He ate until his fingers shone with oil. When Mama Kachi returned, she screamed, "Yezu, OBINA, you again. You have eaten my family's food." Her voice echoed across the compound. Villagers gathered in shock. "Ah! OBINA, how can you do this?" one woman shouted. "Have you no shame?" But OBINA kept eating, pretending not to hear until he swallowed the last bite. Then, with rice still on his lips, he said weakly, "I'm sorry, my stomach was crying." The villagers hissed. "Glutton," they called him. "Food thief." His parents arrived, humiliated. "OBINA, what have you done?" his father shouted. That night, the Akan family sat in silence. Mr. Akan's head was bowed. His wife was crying softly. "We have failed," she said. "We raised a child who brings shame to our name." But OBINA didn't care. As long as his belly was full, everything was fine. The next morning, his parents restocked the kitchen, afraid he might steal again and embarrass them. But their son had already become a village joke. Nobody wanted to share a meal with him. Children laughed when they saw him singing, "OBINA the Eater, Food Finisher." OBINA's only friend was a girl named Chika. She loved him despite his habit. One day, Chika invited OBINA to her wedding as a groomsman. "Please don't embarrass me," she begged. "Eat before you come." OBINA promised. "I will behave," he said, smiling. On the wedding day, when everyone was dancing, OBINA disappeared. Chika looked around in panic. "Where is OBINA?" she asked. But OBINA was behind the hall in the kitchen area, eating from a big pot of fried rice. He even filled a cooler to take home. When the guests realized the food was not enough, they started murmuring. "How can a wedding run out of food?" someone complained. Chica's mother ran to the kitchen. "What happened?" she asked the cooks. They pointed at the empty pots. "It's OBINA," they said. "He ate everything." Chica was furious. She stormed outside and found OBINA sitting behind the tent, chewing chicken. "OBINA," she shouted. "You ruined my wedding." Everyone turned to look. OBINA tried to speak, but his mouth was too full. "Get out!" Chica cried. "You'll never change." OBINA left the wedding in shame, carrying his cooler of food. As he walked home, her words echoed in his mind. "You'll never find peace if you don't change." He sat under a tree and thought deeply. "Maybe she's right," he whispered. "But how can I stop eating?" His stomach growled again. The next day he decided to distract himself by taking a walk. That was when he met Ngozi, a tall, graceful woman who smiled warmly. "Hello," she said. "You must be OBINA. I've heard of you." Bina grinned. "Good things, I hope." Ngozi laughed. "Let's just say, interesting things." She was kind and soft-spoken. OBINA liked her immediately. They became friends and started spending time together. For the first time in his life, OBINA cared about something other than food. When they ate together, he took small bites, pretending not to be hungry. Ngozi was impressed. "You eat so little," she teased. "People lied about you." OBINA smiled shyly. "Don't believe everything you hear." But deep down, his hunger still lived, waiting for a chance to escape. Weeks passed. OBINA fell in love with Ngozi. He wanted to marry her, so he tried harder to control his appetite. But one afternoon, after spending all day with her, he became weak from hunger. On his way home, he passed a small shrine at the edge of the village. On a wooden table lay a sacrifice to the gods: boiled eggs, roasted yam, palm oil and corn. The smell was heavenly. Bina stopped. "Just one egg," he whispered. "The gods won't miss it." But one egg became two, two became four, and soon he had eaten everything. Satisfied and smiling, OBINA went home. His mother was cooking, and she greeted him warmly. "Where are you coming from, my son?" she asked. OBINA tried to reply, but his lips didn't move. He tried again, but his mouth was glued shut. Panic filled his eyes. "OBINA, what's wrong?" his mother shouted. He pointed to his mouth helplessly. His father rushed in. "Speak, boy." But no sound came. He shook his head, trembling. His parents thought he was joking until he grabbed a chalk and wrote, "I can't open my mouth." Fear filled the room. "What happened to you?" his father asked, but OBINA couldn't answer. They tried forcing his mouth open with a spoon, but it wouldn't budge. His lips were sealed as if by invisible hands. Days passed and OBINA grew weaker. He couldn't eat or drink. His mother cried every night. The villagers heard about it and began to whisper. "It must be punishment," they said. "He has offended the gods." Finally, his parents carried him to the village priest, an old man with white chalk marks on his face. The priest looked at OBINA silently for a long time. Then he said, "You have eaten what was not yours. You have eaten from the gods' table. Until you confess, your mouth will remain sealed." His parents knelt down weeping. "Please forgive him." But the priest shook his head. Only his truth can free him. The whole village gathered in the square the next morning. Weak and trembling, OBINA held a slate and wrote, "I ate the god's sacrifice." The crowd gasped in horror. "OBINA! Again!" They shouted. "You never learn." As OBINA finished writing his confession, the crowd erupted. "He ate the gods' food," some shouted. "No wonder the rains have delayed. No wonder our goats fall sick." Others spat on the ground, angry and disgusted. OBINA's parents fell on their knees, begging for mercy. "He is our only child," his mother cried. "Please forgive him." But the priest raised his hand. "Silence," he said. "Let the gods decide." Then he turned to OBINA. "Now that you have confessed, the gods will hear your truth. Speak." At that moment, a sudden wind blew, and OBINA's lips began to tremble. Slowly, his mouth opened. The crowd gasped. "He can talk!" someone shouted. OBINA fell to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. "I'm sorry," he cried. "I was hungry. I couldn't resist. Forgive me." The priest looked at him with sad eyes. "The gods have shown you mercy, but your punishment remains in your heart. You must never let hunger rule you again." The villagers murmured among themselves. Some were relieved. Others were still angry. But deep down, everyone knew a lesson had been learned that day. OBINA had faced the consequence of his greed. Days turned into weeks. OBINA's face grew thin from all he had suffered, but something inside him changed. The hunger that once controlled him now frightened him. He began to help his mother in the kitchen, not to eat, but to learn self-control. When his father served food, OBINA waited patiently until everyone had eaten before touching his portion. The villagers watched in silence, suspicious but hopeful. "Maybe he has truly changed," they whispered. "Maybe this is a new OBINA." But no one was sure, not yet. The priest, wanting to test OBINA's heart, called the villagers together one afternoon. "We must see if this boy has truly changed," he said. "Let us prepare a great feast for the gods, and we will see what he does." The villagers agreed. They cooked jollof rice, pounded yam, spicy stew, roasted plantain and fish. The aroma floated through the air like a song. Everyone was hungry, even OBINA. His stomach rumbled, but he kept his distance. "This food is not mine," he said quietly. "It belongs to the gods." His mother watched with tears in her eyes. When the priest finished the rituals, he called OBINA forward. "My son," he said, "take this plate and serve others." The crowd held its breath. OBINA took the plate, trembling. He served each villager carefully, avoiding the temptation to lick his fingers or taste the sauce. Sweat poured down his face, but he didn't give in. The priest smiled faintly. "Good," he said. "Now serve yourself." OBINA hesitated, then took only a small spoon of rice and sat quietly under a tree. The villagers began to clap. "He's changed," they cried. "OBINA has changed." Ngozi, who had avoided him since his disgrace, stood at the edge of the crowd. When she saw him resist the food, her heart softened. Later that evening she approached him. "OBINA," she said softly, "you did well today." He looked up surprised. "Ngozi, you're not angry anymore." She smiled. "I was never angry. I was only hurt. But today you showed true strength." Tears welled up in his eyes. "I almost lost you because of my foolishness." "You didn't lose me," she replied. "You found yourself." And from that day their bond grew stronger. Months passed, and OBINA became a changed man indeed. He helped farmers harvest their crops and gave food to hungry children. People who once mocked him now respected him. The gods spared him for a reason, they said. He is living proof that no one is too broken to be repaired. OBINA never missed a chance to tell his story to others. "Food is good," he would say, "but too much of anything can destroy you." The children listened with wide eyes, learning from his mistakes. His name was no longer a joke. It became a lesson. One day, OBINA's father called him to the veranda. "My son," he said, "I am proud of you. You have made peace with yourself and with the gods." OBINA smiled humbly. "It was your patience and Mama's prayers that saved me." His mother hugged him tightly. "I only wish we had taught you better when you were small," she said, crying. "Maybe we wouldn't have lost so much peace." "No, Mama," OBINA said gently. "You gave me love. The rest I had to learn myself." His parents wept and thanked the heavens for their son's rebirth. As harvest season came, the villagers held a festival. They roasted corn, shared palm wine, and danced around a bonfire. The priest asked OBINA to bless the meal. "You who once disrespected the gods' food, now show them honor. Pray for us," he said. OBINA stepped forward, bowed, and raised his hands. "Great spirits of Bunga," he began, "thank you for mercy and for teaching me wisdom. May no man here ever be ruled by his desires." The crowd echoed, "Amen." That night, the stars seemed to shine brighter than ever before. The next morning, children gathered around OBINA's hut. "Tell us the story again," they begged. OBINA smiled. "You really want to hear how my mouth got sealed?" he teased. The children nodded eagerly. So he told it again, how greed led him into trouble, how confession brought forgiveness, and how he learned that true satisfaction is not in the belly but in the heart. The children laughed, gasped, and clapped. "We'll never steal food," they promised. "We'll be good like you." OBINA chuckled. "Be better than me," he said. "That's how you honor my story." As years went by, the story of OBINA spread beyond the village. Travelers told it in other towns. Elders used it to teach the youth. Whenever someone was caught stealing food or being greedy, they would say, "Do you want to end up like OBINA?" And everyone would laugh. But deep down they respected the lesson. The boy who once brought shame had become a symbol of redemption. His name carried both warning and hope. And so, the legend of OBINA the Great Eater lived on, not as a tale of gluttony, but of transformation. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the air turned golden, Ngozi sat with OBINA outside their hut. "Do you ever crave like before?" she asked softly. OBINA smiled, looking at the horizon. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But when I do, I remember the pain of not being able to speak, and I stop. Hunger is nothing compared to silence." Ngozi nodded, holding his hand. "You've grown wise, my husband." He laughed gently. "No, I've just learned the hard way." They sat quietly, the sound of drums echoing from the distance, a song of peace and second chances. From that day, OBINA taught young men about moderation. "Food is not your enemy," he told them. "It becomes your enemy when you love it more than you love yourself." The young men listened closely. Some laughed at first, but later they came to him for advice. He helped them work, farm, and live with purpose. The same people who once avoided him now sought his guidance. The gods had turned his shame into wisdom, his weakness into strength. OBINA had finally become the man his parents always prayed he would be. Years later, when OBINA grew old and gray, he would still smile when he smelled jollof rice. "Ah," he'd say, "what a sweet smell." But not sweeter than peace of mind. The children giggled, and the elders nodded. The story of his life was retold again and again around firesides. And every time it was told, the listeners took home a lesson. A man who cannot control his hunger will one day be consumed by it. That was OBINA's truth. And that was the wisdom he left behind. So, my besties, that's the story of OBINA, the boy who ate too much and how the gods taught him a lesson he'd never forget. Dizzy, tell me, what do you think about OBINA's story? Do you believe someone can truly change like that in real life? Have you ever seen anyone who eats too much but doesn't gain weight? Let's talk about it in the comments section below. Backhand index pointing down, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, my besties. Tap that notification bell so you'll know whenever I drop a new story. It's all love over here, red heart. See you in the next one. Bye besties, love you all. 2 hearts.